We're here at Upper Three Creek Lake Snow Park, and I want you to see that I pretty much have the place to myself. Right there is actually the trail for snowmobiling, and we're gonna walk over here. Straight ahead here, that is actually our trailhead. So today we're doing a 3.1 mile out and back to Jefferson View Shelter. It's a shelter that has a view of Mount Jefferson. Depending on conditions, I haven't decided. I might actually do a super hike and do 9.6 miles all the way to Three Creek Lake and the Driftwood Campground. I'm gonna assess conditions after I get to the shelter and see how I feel. So it's either going to be a shorter 3.1 mile to the Jefferson View Shelter, or it's going to be a longer, more epic 9.6 miles all the way to Driftwood. We shall see. Let's get going. I'm excited. Okay, so we're here at our trailhead, Three Creek Lake Trail. I'm going to take you to Jefferson View Shelter. You can see this ice is actually this snow is very icy, I should say. I do have my Yaktrax Summit deployed. I would not attempt to do this without Yaktrax because this is pretty sketch as far as the ice component. This is a sheet of ice essentially. Looks like it's rained on top of snow. I think it's a little bit of an ice rink. Glad I've got my Yaktrax. Fortunately, this isn't very deep, so I can hike this pretty easily with my Yaktrax. If it was really deep, you would need snowshoes, but typically if it's less deep and more icy, Yaktrax or micro spikes are the way to go. So this is perfect. It's actually my second time using my Yaktrax. Used them at Manowas Falls, the previous hike. Definitely glad I got these and added to my gear kit. I can deploy them as needed. Here's another tip. Always do a little research if you can. I check out all trails, read some comments. Several people said, just went to this trail and Yaktrax micro spikes were sufficient. You can kind of baseline with comments from people on all trails or other locations, people who've recently visited it and gotten the most recent conditions trip report. Then you kind of know what gear to bring. Generally, I try to bring my snowshoes and my Yaktrax so I can deploy as needed, but I was pretty confident today I could just get away with my Yaktrax. Makes a much more pleasant experience. Snowshoes are way heavier, end up have about 5 pounds on your feet. You walk clumsy, and then you really need your trekking poles with the snowshoes. So if I can just do Yaktrax, it's like equivalent of summer hiking on dirt. I'm just walking around. No trekking poles really necessary. Perfect conditions. Okay, so we are at our first trail junction. Come up here. Now this is also a Nordic trail system. Nordic meaning cross country. So if you are cross country skiing, here at this junction you go straight. But if you're snowshoeing, I'm not snowshoeing, but I'm Yaktraxing, which is kind of in the same family as snowshoeing. Then you take this path. You can see the sign, Jeff View Shelter, 1.5. As I said, 3.1 mile out and back. Jeff is short for Jefferson. It's called Jefferson View Shelter because you can get a kind of a money shot of Mount Jefferson, hence the shorthand Jeff View. Isn't a dude named Jeff just hanging out there. So I think I'm fortunate that I planned this correctly. I picked today to do this the bluest sky day of the week. Supposed to be crystal clear blue skies. So I think I might be in for a treat when I get up there. Excited to get my own views of Jefferson Peak, the glorious Mount Jefferson. I'm also the only one here. When I got to the parking lot, it was just me. And then another car came after me, but I'm the only one going this direction. A lot of trails from Upper Three Creek Lake Sno-Park. It's also one of the most extensive snowmobile base camps, but that's in opposite direction. Different set of trails. It's actually hundreds of miles of snowmobile trails in Central Oregon, but we're doing the hiking trails. Doing a pretty moderate incline right now. You can see we're going up. I love this area. We're in Central Oregon. This has definitely got more of the pinorific footprint, which I appreciate. Going up a pretty decent incline. Started at 5,100 feet, going to the shelter, which is 5,800 feet. Being very flexible this hike. Haven't decided if I'm just going to go to the shelter, call it a day, 3.1 mile out and back, 700 foot elevation gain, or I'm going to opt for the more epic journey, which is 9.6 miles all the way to Three Creek Lake. My decision will be based partially based on the conditions, my conditions assessment as I get higher and higher in the elevation, and partly just how I'm feeling. Brought some snacks with me. I should be good on that front, so we shall see. And we're even to a point in the year where there's some patches of no snow, no ice, I should say, really. A lot of blow down on an incline. You can tell about my labored breathing. February 10th. Actually had a bit of a snow melt. Snow was patchy, although icy. I'm gonna show off beautiful mountains. Let's keep going. Been here before a few times. Helps a little bit as far as knowing the path. There's our path right here. So good mental note in this area. You get around February, probably ditch the snowshoes and go for the Yaktrax. This is actually one of the more popular snow parks in the area. You've got Upper Three Creek Lake Snow Park and Lower Three Creek Lake Snow Park. I prefer Upper to better access to the snowshoeing and Nordic trails. Definitely the more popular of the two. Right now we're on the snowshoe slash hiking slash micro spikes slash Yaktrax trail, aka just the snowshoe trail. If you ever deploy micro spikes or Yaktrax, the snowshoe trail is the one for you. Typically the snowshoe trail is a bit different than the cross-country trail. Cross-country skis, the Nordic trail. Typically they have those as different routes. One of the reasons for that is the snowshoes will destroy the little ski grooves that the Nordic skiers want. There's actually a lot of volunteers into cross country that will actually go out and make little grooves for cross country skiers to ski in, make it easier. It's kind of a volunteer passion based thing. Last thing they want is the clunky snowshoers just walk through and trample it and ruin their work. So for that reason, snowshoe and cross-country ski trails are typically very different trails. So if you're snowshoeing and you see cross-country trails, try to be courteous and not step on them if you can. There have been a few trails I've seen where the trail's so narrow you have no choice. I've done that before, but generally if I have a choice, I always try to steer clear. I intentionally picked a day that had blue sky. A few of these days this week were cloudy, but today was the blue sky, bluebird day. I thought, well, I'm going to hike to a place that I'm hoping to get mountain views. Maybe I should maximize those views by going on the blue sky day. So that's what I did. Looks like my efforts will not have been in vain. Here's another junction. We're not taking Warren's Trail. We're going to keep going straight. See Peak View Shelter, Snowshoe Trail, Jeff View Shelter, 1 mile. pretty crazy. We started at 1.5, so we're already a third of the way to the shelter, and I feel like we just started. It'd be a short hike if I stop there. Part of the fun of wilderness adventuring is being flexible. Like, I always come with plan A, B, C, D through F, kind of a hyper planner that hasn't come across. And I enjoy the planning, that's part of the fun. So whether it's weather management, traffic management, time management, hydration management, food management, a lot of elements that are key to being a agile wilderness adventurer like myself, or at least I try to be. So gave myself some contingency plans. I studied the map and look out several scenarios and map out the elevation changes and the mileage changes and kind of come up with a bunch of different options. So I've got one of those minds where I can kind of memorize the map, so I can kind of see the map in my mind. So come out here and allow myself to have the flexibility based on the conditions and how I'm feeling to kind of make improvisational, can't pronounce that word. I can improvise and make options and choices based on the conditions and how I'm feeling. Kind of makes it a bit more fun hiking towards Jefferson View Shelter, view of Mount Jefferson. And you got gorgeous views of Mount Jefferson from the shelter. It's a pretty epic setup. This is definitely one of my favorite Sno-Park areas. It's actually the latest I've ever come in the year. Captured a little bit of these mountains. Typically I've come earlier in the year and it's a lot more Snowmageddon style, but you want to stick with these blue pools, which is sign you're on the right track. Stop here and take a look. Look at that. Sorts of buttes and peaks, giving us a pretty epic panorama over at the sun. This area is gorgeous. I don't know, kind of a nerd fact, but hey, that's me. What's the definition of alpine? Definition of alpine is anything over 5,000 feet. Have you ever heard of a alpine lake or a subalpine lake? What they're really saying is over 5,000 feet or under 5,000 feet. So since this snow park starts at 5,100 feet, this entire snow park is alpine. So we are technically alpine mountain hiking right now in the mountains. So there's a fun fact for you. Share with your friends. Impress people at the dinner table. Love that beautiful sun. And let's stop here and take a look at our mountain friends. I love this area of all these little baby pines, little sprouts of pine. Got a beautiful sun, beautiful blue sky. Hiking through a pretty epic pine forest, if I do say so myself. One of my favorite parts of Central Oregon is our pinorific forests. And this is kind of quintessential what I'm talking about. We're in the Three Creek Lake area. This is Upper Three Creek Lake Snow Park. One of the most epic car camping campgrounds in all of Central Oregon is the Driftwood campground. I highly recommend that. And that's just a couple miles north of me. Actually south of me, if I remember my orientation. But how absolutely beautiful this area is. Hiking through a little bit of a narrow pine passage, which I'm greatly enjoying. Pines are one of my favorite types of trees, along with spruces and hemlocks. The alpine mix, I call them, the alpine 3. I don't know if most people have a favorite type of tree, but I certainly do. And this is one of them. This is also pretty emblematic of Central Oregon in general. Particularly this Three Creek Lake area is just huge concentration of pines. So this is quintessential Central Oregon. Oh my gosh, this area is beautiful. We're getting through this thicket of pine trees and entering a intermediary meadow. Give us views of the sun to our left, obviously after sunrise, and some mountain peaks to our right. It's looking awesome. We're gaining elevation, hiking through beautiful Deschutes National Forest, my favorite forest in Oregon, actually one of my favorite forests anywhere, mainly because it's so pinerific. The area where you're going to find Broken Top and the Three Creek Lake Driftwood area, Mount Bachelor. Pretty epic national forest as far as national forests go. It's also a mountain that I have a direct shot of from the great room of my house. So I think Mount Jefferson's got a special place in my heart because I see it every day. It's kind of the quintessential mountain. Ooh, renting another little pine, passageway. Look how beautiful this is. Walking through a little pine chute. Trail gets narrower here, and we're surrounded on all sides by epic pines. Got my Yaktrax Summit deployed because it is a bit icy. We're going up about 700 feet from 5,100 to 5,800. Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. Look at this. If you're a sucker for pines like I am, then anytime you see like this cluster, let me pan and show you. Right there is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. That is a cross-country ski route. This is also a elaborate network of Nordic trails. We are on the snowshoe route, which weaves and bobs its way around the area. So we're going through this narrow pine passage. Pretty cool. Mighty fine pines, pining for pines, pinerific. These are gorgeous. Got these blue signs indicating we are on the right trail. We're not snowshoeing, we're Yaktraxing, but that would be the Snowshoe Trail here. Pretty much you got the Nordic Trail and you got the Snowshoe Trail. If you're hiking, using micro spikes, using Yaktrax, using snowshoes, you want to be on the Snowshoe Trail. If you are cross-country skiing, you want to be on the Nordic Trail. Walking through a mighty fine pine passage, narrow part of the trail that weaves its way through a thick thicket of pines. A little after sunrise, you can see the sun is brightening our day. Kind of interesting. Central Oregon's kind of in a demarcation line ecologically. Up north, Mount Hood, just an hour north of where I live, about 2.5 hours from here, you got like a wet, droopy, mossy forest. A lot of like Douglas firs, and it's just got kind of a wet, humid, ecological footprint. That is the same footprint as all of the state of Washington for the most part, and even into BC, Canada. That part of the Cascades got kind of a wetter, droopier Douglas fir feel. Very mossy trees. And here in Central Oregon, you can see with the pines, it's more dry. We're right on the edge of a ecological demarcation line that extends all the way down to California and over to Idaho. Technically, we've got some different ranges there. The Eastern Sierras in California, and technically the Sawtooths are kind of the north edge of the Rockies, but kind of interesting. So all I have to do from where I live in Madras, Oregon, is go an hour in different directions, and I'm like in totally different worlds. So I enjoy noticing the difference between them. Loving that sun peeking between our trees right here a little after sunrise. Definitely in the great melt for the winter. In fact, this is the latest I've ever come here as far as time of the year, and I was actually surprised about the road conditions. It was basically pavement all the way to the parking lot. Never experienced that before. Previous times I've come earlier in the winter, it's been actually almost a mildly dangerous drive, driving on snow and ice to get to the parking lot, but I'll take it. Today was like pavement right to the parking lot, pulling, I'm the only one there. Can't complain about that. Maybe I'll make a mental note that it pays to come to this one later in the year, just so you can get a little safer conditions. Love that sun. Look at that kind of sparkle of the snow between us and the sun. I don't know if that's coming through, but pretty beautiful as we continue to climb. Always looking for these blue little signs indicating we are on the track. Look at these gorgeous mountains. I'm gonna pan over and show you mountains we have in every direction. Pretty impressive. Ones straight here are slightly obscured, but we'll be getting better views shortly. And let's keep hiking. Going through a little narrow passageway of pines. I do enjoy these, probably because I am a pine tree enthusiast. Don't know if that's a thing, but I'm making it a thing. Got several pines and blue spruces at my house on my property. So I am a fan. Gosh, this is beautiful. Little blue guy on the tree, the marker. But how could you get lost at this point, right? You'd have to just pick a direction and start wandering. It'd be difficult to get lost in this trail, keeping it real. This is a pretty concentrated thicket of pines. Pretty cool. I'm digging it. Back end of winter, definitely into the great melt, the great annual melt. Not at our maximum snowicity, another word I'll make up. We are here, we are at the gorgeous Jefferson View Shelter here at Upper Three Creek Lake Sno-Park in Central Oregon. And look at these views. We're at a bit of a top of a ridge line. It's about 5,800 feet. And we are approaching the shelter, Mighty Jefferson View Shelter. And let's go take a look. Got a lot of pre-cut wood on the side. So it's not the biggest shelter of shelters. Look at this. It's pretty cool. You got what I call communal style seating all around, 3/4 of the square. Got this wood burning stove. I'll step back and got this, looks like moleskin style canopy that acts as the wind barrier. No door, just a canopy. Step inside. And look at that, it's our wood burning stove. As we sit here on a bench in Jefferson View Shelter, thanks to the hard work of the Oregon National Guard and U.S. Forestry Service, I give you a sense of this A-frame classic log cabin design. And we've got communal style benches all around the perimeter on 3 sides, making a U. There's not a lot of places you can sit down in an A-frame log cabin shelter and enjoy a direct view of one of the most beautiful mountains in Oregon, Mount Jefferson. This area is absolutely spectacular. This area is awesome. Got Jefferson View Shelter, built in a cooperation between the Oregon National Guard and the Forestry Service. Another peak over there. Got expansive Deschutes National Forest and another cluster of peaks over here, including right there in the center. That's Jefferson, Mount Jefferson, hence the name Jeff View Shelter. Get it? Mount Jefferson View. This area is absolutely spectacular. This is an alpine wonderland. You like log cabins, you like mountains, you like forests, you like snow, you like blue sky. Well, this might be the place for you. Look at how beautiful this horizon is. We're standing here in a bit of an alpine winter wonderland. We're in the Three Creek Lake area, Deschutes National Forest, Central Oregon, enjoying a myriad of mountain peaks across this beautiful alpine horizon. Hiking through Deschutes National Forest, not far from the Jefferson View Shelter. This area is spectacular.